Episode 39. The dungeon's progress was shockingly fast. Blue River was beaming with joy, and Yi Shu found the situation quite convenient. Compared to Tian Qi and Yu Zhongmian, Blue River's four-man squad was far superior in both gear and skill. After I directed the first wave, I barely needed to give any more orders. Once these four grasped the intent, they could assess the situation themselves, taking precise action at the perfect moment. In just 2 waves, all the minor mobs leading to the first boss of Frost Forest were wiped out. Blue River checked the time, less than 5 minutes, and the mobs were already a non-issue. Now the only thing standing in their way was the boss. The first boss, the Goblin Patrol, is a tougher version of the regular Goblin Grunts. It wields a spiked club, and its physical attack power is off the charts. This boss might not have any flashy skills, but its straightforward club-swinging attacks are enough to stump plenty of teams. The reason is simple. With the standard main tank aggro strategy, to face tank a boss with such high attack power, you have no choice but to stack defense and stamina. If you can't meet those stat requirements, then you'll have to rely on skill. Skill isn't something you can just conjure up on a whim. Thus, when the stats aren't up to par, only a true expert can handle it. Ordinary players can only stare helplessly and go farm for gear. On a technical level, Blue River had no more doubts about Lord Grimm. The guy was kiting over 20 goblins without even a level 20 class. If anyone dared to say he lacked skill, Blue River would be the first to disagree. But against a boss, Blue River wasn't worried Lord Grimm's skill would get him killed by the Goblin Patrol. His only concern was whether the aggro would be held steady. If that Sentinel's club lands on a mage, even by accident, it's an instant kill.
I'm pulling aggro. Everyone, give it all you've got.
How many seconds?
Blue River asked this with professional expertise. Typically, a main tank would engage the enemy alone for a few seconds first, building up some initial aggro. This prevented others from pulling OT the moment they unleashed a major skill.
No need to wait. Pull it, and go all in.
Just go in when it opens.
All 4 of them exclaimed in surprise.
Seize the tempo. We're on the clock. Go time.
With that, Ye Shu tapped his keyboard, sending Lord Grimm charging forward. Blue River and his 3 companions hesitated for a split second, but they still didn't dare let their guard down. They'd saved a lot of time on the trash mobs, so they figured it was best to play it safe with the boss. So, with perfect unspoken coordination, all 4 of them held back. They watched as Lord Grimm charged forward, closing the distance to the Goblin Patrolman, and thrust his spear straight at it. Dragon Tooth, Sky Strike, Double Stab, a basic upper slash, a basic straight thrust, and another Sky Strike.
What are you waiting for?
The shout jolted Blue River, and the other 3 awake. But they were still at a loss for what to do. Ever since Lord Grimm pulled aggro, that Goblin Patrol has been doing somersaults in the air. It's a spectacular infinite juggle combo. The 4 of them couldn't help but wonder just how many hits Lord Grimm could chain together. They wanted to see when the boss would finally hit the ground. But with that shout, the 4 snapped out of it. This wasn't a highlight reel to admire. They began chanting spells, fumbled for scrolls, drew swords, and charged forward in one fluid motion. Flames, frost, Happy's projectiles, and sword flashes, the 4 attacks landed in a single, seamless wave. Their coordination was flawless, with no one blocking another's line of sight or movement. Yet a thread of caution ran through each of them, a shared nervous tension. Afraid their own attacks might be too fierce and draw the boss's crushing blow. Lord Grimm told everyone to go all out, but he wasn't a dedicated main tank. A true MT, like a knight, gains a whole suite of aggro control skills after their class change. Even their pre-20 skills get modified to generate extra threat. But Lord Grimm, being unclassed, could still learn these skills. However, his versions lacked that built-in aggro effect. So, the 4 of them held back, not going all out, expertly managing their threat levels. As they fought, Lord Grimm's voice cut through the fray.
Go all out. Don't worry about pulling OT.
Seeing how confident this guy was, the 4 of them figured it'd be rude not to play along. So they gritted their teeth and went all out, each one desperately pushing their DPS to the absolute limit. Glory didn't have any assistive information like threat calculations, and damage and healing stats were only tallied after clearing the dungeon. All 4 of them were experts, each with their own signature, most aggressive playstyle. Before they'd been holding back to avoid pulling OT. Now, deep down, they almost wanted to pull it, as if not doing so would make their DPS feel like a cheap knockoff. Yet the Goblin Patrolman never once swung at any of the other four. Its massive club was aimed solely at Lord Grim. Lord Grim moved with incredible speed, but what was even more impressive was that his constant movement never once interrupted his attacks on the patrolman. He never stood still for a single moment. He kept circling the goblin, never letting up. Blue River, a melee class himself, watched with growing alarm. Lord Grim's tactic was effective against the system-controlled boss, which could pivot instantly to track him, never falling behind whether he turned left or right. Its only real function was to dodge the boss's attacks. But in a PK, this kind of playstyle would be enough to make the average player dizzy. Looks like this guy's a real pro at PvP too. The Goblin Scout finally fell, and the four of them never got a single lucky break. All four of them felt a bit sheepish. It had been a gang-up all right. They'd surrounded the target and given it their all, but it was as if the poor bastard getting pummeled had been completely oblivious to their existence.
Bro, how are you holding aggro so steady?
Blue River couldn't help but ask. He felt that even a professional MT like Lan Huaye would have lost aggro several times already under his own relentless assault.
Just gotta out-DPS you.
Ye Shu replied. Blue River was dumbstruck. Cloud Return was shocked. Moonlit Beauty was speechless, and Thunderbolt Light couldn't help but snark.
So he wasn't the main tank. He was a DPS all along.
The four of them were utterly devastated. Right? He was just a more violent DPS than they were. Lord Grim charged on without pause to pull the next wave of goblins, while the four of them trailed behind, whispering among themselves.
His DPS is actually higher than ours.
And by a significant margin. Otherwise, the aggro wouldn't be this steady.
His technique is top-notch, I'll admit. To hold aggro that steady with pure DPS, his attack power must be insane. Hey, does anyone recognize that war spear of his?
No idea.
Looks weird, like a giant garlic bulb.
Is that what your garlic bulbs look like?
It's artistic license, you get it?
Get lost.
Shut up, everyone. We're pulling. Focus.
Up ahead, Lord Grim began another wave-pulling maneuver. The four players didn't dare be careless. Even though they'd succeeded twice already, they knew the risks all too well. A single misplaced skill could let a few goblins slip control, and the consequences would be unthinkable. They lured, gathered, and annihilated the monsters. Everyone's performance was flawless. After 2 waves, all the minions along the second boss's path were wiped out. Facing the second boss, Blue River and his 3 companions held nothing back, unleashing their full DPS from the very start. And the result? In the end, the 4 of them just silently fell in line behind Lord Grim once more, chasing after him as he went to pull the next wave of monsters.
Whoa, that's fast.
We're definitely gonna break that record.
Thunder Lightning suddenly exclaimed with great feeling.
And by a huge margin, too.
Blue River's tone was full of satisfaction.
Ah, that's satisfying.
Youngui seemed genuinely happy at the moment. Zhiyue Qingcheng didn't know what to say. She didn't even want to bring up the topic of DPS anymore.